welcome to this lesson in Python. So we're moving along in computer science. We went over functions, we went over control flow. So now we'll go ahead and do this exercise that Codecademy gives us. So it looks like Sal's runs the biggest shipping company in the Tri-County area. So it looks like, let's just start this and see what they want us to do. Let's see. First off, we need to know how much it costs to ship a package of given weight by the normal shipping ground. Write a function for the cost of shipping, of ground shipping. This function should take one parameter weight and return cost. Okay, cool. So we are going to write a function for the cost of ground shipping. Okay, and we're going to give it parameters of weight, and we know that it's going to return cost of the shipping package of that weight. So let's take a look here. And here's ground shipping. If it's 2 pounds or less, it's over 2 pounds but less than or equal to 6. If it's 6 or equal to 10, or if it's over 10 pounds. Cool. So here's the price per pound, and here is the flat charge. So we're going to need to define what cost is. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a bunch of conditional statements. Normally here we wouldn't just make a switch, but because I don't think we've gone over switches yet, we'll just make a bunch of conditional statements. So if the weight that's coming into the function is 2 pounds, so less than or equal to 2. So if the weight is less than or equal to 2, okay, then what we're going to return is 1.5. Okay. Let's see. Elif weight is less than or equal to, it looks like 6 pounds. 6. Right? So we need to put the and statement here. If the weight is less than 6 pounds and weight is greater than 2, then we need to return 3.0, and we're going to return a float. So I'm just following this chart, and I'm making a conditional statement based on this chart here. So this one's over 6 but less than 10. So Elif weight is less than or equal to 10, and it's also weight is greater than 6. Then we're going to return 4.0, which again is just $4. And then if it's over 10 pounds, so everything else should be over 10 pounds. What we should do is return $4.75. So let's save this and let's try to run this. So let's say cost of ground shipping, okay, and if it's 2 pounds or less, we should expect it to come out as 150. I don't know if it prints it. I maybe have to print it. I don't think I have to print this, right? Oh, you know what? It returns. So what we can do is we can put price is equal to cost of ground shipping, and then we can put in 2, and then what we can do is this is our unit test, we're going to print out price, and we're going to save this, and it prints out 1.5. So let's go ahead and unit test the rest of these guys. Let's put in 4. We get out 3. It's between 2 and 6. And then let's print out 7, which is between 6 and 10. We get 4 right here, $4. And then finally, let's put in 17, and it should give us 475. Cool. So these were our unit tests. And our unit test went ahead and made sure that our function was doing what it was supposed to do. Okay, so that first part is completed. So second part, a package that weighs 8.4 pounds should cost $53.60 to ship with normal ground shipping. So it's 4 pounds. Okay, yeah. Test that your ground shipping function gets the same value. So I guess one thing we missed here is that we have to add the flat charge in here as well. So instead of writing that 20 times, I'm just going to say flat charge equal 20. And then I'm going to copy and paste flat charge. We're going to add flat charge, and we're going to add a flat charge. Now, Jeff, why isn't it easier just to write plus $20? Like why do this? Why make it into a variable? Well, what if the flat charge goes to 22? You're going to go into your function and change all these return statements to 22? Nah. You make flat charge into a variable, and then if the flat charge goes up to 22, you just change the variable of flat charge, and it changes everything inside of this function. So go ahead, let's see. So where's the test here? So they want to test it with 8.4 pounds, which we can oblige because we already have our unit test ready to go. And it came back with 24. 8.4 pounds. Ooh, we did this wrong. Should cost. So is it? Oh, it's $1.50 per pound. So we have to so we have to return weight times. So that's something that I missed. Which I'm sure somebody out there caught it and was like, "What are you doing?" And if you caught it, that's awesome. That's why it's always better to. I don't have Kevin today, so that's why it's always better to code with people. So it looks like it returns 53.6. So we met the requirements. So let's reread this. So right, so it's 2 pounds or less. This is price per pound. So our requirements were to take this number multiplied by weight. So whatever the weight was, we multiplied it by this number, and then we added it to the flat charge. Now, this is only for ground shipping. For drone shipping, the prices are different. So what we should do before we even look at the rest of the requirements, we already know we're gonna have to write the function for the cost of the drone shipping, and it's probably gonna take weight just like this other one did. And what we can do is we can copy all of this, because we don't want to repeat, and maybe we can't because it looks like it copies the indentation. Let's try this again. Oh, okay. Let's paste it now. Let's see if we get indentation error. We don't. Okay. So we know that if there's no flat charge. So we know we're not going to need the flat charge variable here at all because the flat charge is 0. And really what we should say is we should say ground flat charge is equal to this. And the reason you can imagine the reason why I'm doing that is because obviously we want to create a variable called drone flat charge, and again we want to set it equal to 0 because again in the future the drone flat charge may completely change. So when we're writing this function, we're gonna go look at the price per pound. We're gonna change it accordingly. So price per pound is 4.5. And yes, if you're thinking to yourself that each of these ranges probably needs a variable, you're probably right. And what I mean by that is the 4.5, you would create a variable called 2 or less pounds, right? And then you would assign it equal to $4.50 here, or 4.5. And then you would take this and you'd put it in there. But we don't need to do any of that right now. While that is better practice, that's too much right now. We don't need to worry about that. We should still do the ground and drone flat charges though, in this example, because those introduce you to that. It introduces you to that logic. So let's go back here. Let's look. So if we're at 2 or less pounds, right? We want to return the weight times 4.5 plus whatever the drone flat charges, which obviously it's going to be 0. So what we can do is we can go ahead and concatenation the rest of these. And we know that the price is going to be 9 for this one, 9.0, 12.0, and 14.25. So 14.25. And so let's see if they have a test. They want to test this. What we can do is we can say price with drone is going to be equal to, and notice how this isn't red. It's because this is still inside the function. We have to move it outside the function, and then we have to, and this is not ground. This is just drone. And again, I don't have Kevin, so he would point out all my silliness here. And then, I don't know. Let's put 1.5, which I think is right here. 1.5, and then let's print out price with drone. And again, if you guys have better ways to unit test this stuff, just let me know. Send me an email. Be like, yo, do it this way. Okay, so let's save this. So 6.75 is what our unit test came out with here. So using those two functions for ground shipping and drone shipping cost, as well as the cost of premium ground shipping, write a function that takes one parameter weight and prints out the statement that tells us the shipping method that is the cheapest, how much the shipping. Ooh. Okay, so the requirements are the shipping method that is, we have to find out the shipping method that's the cheapest, and how much it would cost to ship a package of the said weight using this method. So this is pretty interesting actually. So let's create a method called best shipping price, and it's gonna take in 2 parameters. Well, it's gonna take in 1 parameter. It's gonna take in weight, right? And then what it's gonna do is, like, I don't know, there's like multiple ways to do this. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put ground is gonna be equal to, and this might be like a bad way to do this, I don't know. Cost of ground shipping, and then we're gonna pass in weight, right? And then we're gonna do drone is equal to cost of drone shipping, and we're gonna pass in weight. And then we're gonna get 2 numbers here. And with the 2 numbers, we have only 2 options, right? So the first one is if the ground is less than drone, okay, then print the ground shipping is cheaper the ground shipping is cheaper. It will cost plus, we're gonna string, remember we got a string method, whatever comes into ground, or, yeah, it will cost ground. Okay, now, oh man, I hate how this IDE does this. Okay, so the ELF statement should be if the drone is equal to, I'm sorry, not equal to, greater than, less than ground, we should print the drone shipping is cheaper, comma, it will cost space, see, plus string drone, and let's go ahead and give that a space, and put a comma for good grammar, right? It's not good grammar. And finally, else. So the only option left is if they're both equal to each other. So, and what we can say is print the shipping methods are equal. The drone, well, this is bad. The drone will cost space plus str drone, obviously, plus quote, and the ground will cost space plus str ground. So why am I doing it this way? Because it kind of works like a it kind of works like a pseudo unit test. I don't know. Right. So let's do this. Line those up like that. So what happens is I get to see the values coming out of here, so I know that this function works. Okay. So what we can do is we'll write another unit test. Unit test. Okay, and in that unit test, we're gonna call the best shipping price, and we are going to enter a weight of 12, and we're gonna put that into a variable called best price, and we're gonna print best underscore price, and we're gonna save it and see what comes out. The ground shipping is cheaper. It would cost 77. Ooh. And it will cost, let's put a $sign. See if that makes a difference. So here's a question. What is that none coming from? Oh, it's hitting the else statement because we're not returning. So this is very interesting. So let's do this. Let's print that and let's go ahead and return ground. And then let's return drone. And then if it's here, then let's return, just return ground. Let's save this, and yeah, it should come back 77. Why is it hitting the else statement? Is there a way to break out of this? You know what? I bet you it's evaluating. Yeah, it's probably evaluating every single one. It doesn't ever break. So the elif passes and goes to the else statement and automatically runs the else statement. So what we can say is if drone is equal to ground, and let's run it, it should get rid of the 77. It does not get rid of the 77. What if we just did this? No, this is bad practice. Well, where's that 77 coming from? the ground shipping is cheaper. It will cost $77. So where's this random 77 coming from? Best price. Is there a message coming? Oh, there's a return statement coming from the function that gets called. So when we call these functions here, those functions should return but not print out. So where is 77 coming from? Print best price. Best price. Oh, so best price is the variable. I wonder what happens if we do this. So this, okay. So what I think is happening is it's storing the 77 into our variable best price. Yep. So by creating the variable best price, okay, so I need to, so should be 77. So I'm going to say this is the return value of best price. And then we're going to say print best price. All right, so this is just, I'm commenting this for my unit test. I'm going to copy all of this and I'm going to put it into my Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to create a file, new file, save as. And we'll call it sales shipping.py. And let's make sure that I'm in the correct folder. I'm under projects. And we will save it. And we'll paste everything and we'll save this. Okay, let's go back and make sure everything's checked. 6, 7. Okay, so we already know that our function works. Yeah, control flow quiz. Let's go. Okay, read the following code carefully. What happened when the code is executed? So if simple condition x, if x is equal to 0, then print x is equal to 0. If x is greater than or equal to 0, print x is greater than or equal to 0. Else, print x is less than 0. So simple conditional 0. So 0 gets put in. It should print x is equal to 0. That's wrong. There will be syntax error. Why will, so 0, simple conditional, comes in as 0. If x is equal to 0, print x is equal to 0. Elif x is greater than else. Sorry, the line if x is equal to 0 will cause a syntax error. Because x is not a relational operator. It's supposed to be equal. Alright, next one. Let's go back, actually, really quick. Let's just stay here then. Which of the following variables contains a Boolean value? So we know Boolean value is a true or false statement, or the result can only ever be true or false. And we know that right here, it can only ever be true or false because of this equals, the result can either be true or false, and not equals, which is the exclamation point equals, the result can only be true or false. Determine the truth value of the following expression. So A says that 20 is less than or equal to 20, which is true. Okay, and B says that 24 is greater than 27, which is false. So true, false. Let's double check this. Less than or equal to 20. True, false. True, false. Hey. Which of the following is a Boolean expression? 3 is the most elegant number. That's an opinion. The New York Yankees are the classiest baseball team. That's an opinion. This quiz is very hard. That is opinion. My name is Angelo. So the answer is here because either your name is Angelo or it's not Angelo. The quiz being very hard is an opinion. The Yankees being a classy baseball team is an opinion. And 3 being elegant is an opinion. There's no way to validate if that's true or false. Consider the code below. What would print to the terminal? Okay, let's make sure our signs are all correct. So print something. We're going to print 5. And when we print in 5, we should get, is this printed? So I think it should only be, is this printed? Oh, I'm wrong. Is this printed is indeed, but so is this might be printed. Oh, because it's also less than or equal to. Because they are both if statements and are checked against the arguments. So I was wrong. Okay, so let's determine the truth value of the following expressions. This comes out to 6 is 4. This is true. And true. So this is true because both sides of the statement are true. 4 is less than 6 and 8 is equal to 8. So the first one's true. 12 is greater than 12. This is false. And then 7 is greater than or equal to. So it's true. Double truths. Determine the truth value of the following expression. So this is 9 plus 1 is 10, which is not equal to, this is false. 30 divided by 3 is 10. So A is false. B is 5 times 2, which is 10. Is 10 equal to 11 divided by 7, which is, or 77 divided by 7, which is 11 minus 1. So this one's true. So we have is 10 equal to 10, and is 10 not equal. So false, true. Okay, so I have managed to mess up every single one of these, so let's get this one right. What will the code below print when it is executed? So we're going to divide two numbers, x and y. The result is going to be x divided by y, and we're going to return the result. So we're going to try result divided by two numbers. Print result. This is going to be a number error for sure. So if the result is this, it's going to print out a number error, right? Yeah, you can't ever divide by 0. 75% didn't do too well. Okay, and that is the quiz for control flow skills with syntax-based building problems. What is this? Let's see. What's the next lesson? Python function provides some challenging exercises involving control flow. Okay, so more control flow. Yay! All right, let's do these challenges. Challenge 1, create a function name in range. So we're going to define in range. It takes 3 parameters, num, lower, and upper. The function should return true if, so here we go. So if num is greater than or equal to lower. Or equal, or num is equal to upper. True. Else false. Okay. So let's uncomment this. Run this. Oh, I put 3 equal signs. Nope. Let's run it. I return none. What? Oh, I gotta return. It'd be great if I returned a value, eh? Do not forget to return. Alright, returns true. So should print false. This one should print false. Cancel. Let's hit true and false. True and false. We're good. A. So movie review rating. Create a function named movie review. Movie. And if you notice there's a lot of repetition, it's because you got to practice, practice, practice. It has one parameter called rating. And if rating is less than or equal to 5, then we're going to return void at all costs. Right? We're going to write an elif statement down here that says if it's between 5 and 9. So if it's meaning if the rating is greater than 5 and the rating is less than or equal to 9. And really I like to do it first like this, less than or equal to 9. And rating is greater than 5. Right? Then we're going to return this one was fun. And again, I'm just going along with this lesson here. And then finally, we have an else statement which says if rating is 9 or above, then outstanding. So else. Well, no, that's right. Yeah. Let's just return outstanding. Yeah. So let's do the unit test for this. No! What did I do wrong? We have to def it. We have to initialize the actual function. So it says call this should print outstanding. This one was fun. So 9 is less than or equal to 9. So this needs to be less than 9, I guess. Oh, it's between 9 and 5. So it'd be if we wanted to do less than or equal to 8, here we just do less than 9. So let's run this one. It should be outstanding. Let's go ahead and do this test and this test, and let's run these. Let's cancel. Let's run these. Now this is saying that there's an error. So it should print out outstanding, avoid at all costs, and this one was fun. And it's probably because I misspelled something somewhere, which is so silly. Avoid at all costs. Yes. This one was fun, period. Yes. And then outstanding exclamation point. It's because I missed the exclamation point. Let's run this. Yeah, that's so silly. But it is what it is. Let's move to the next one. Alright, twice as large. Def twice as large. We need 2 parameters. We need num1 and num2. And if num1 is 2 times, if num1 is greater than num2 times 2, right? Twice the size. Well, honestly, num2 is times 2. I was like, shouldn't it be num2 times num2? But no, that's dumb. That's not double, right? Double would just be 2 times the size. Then return false. Or, I'm sorry. Return true if num1 is more than double. So if this condition is true, then we're going to return true. And then else, we're going to return false. And again, I'm just following the directions here, like just super quick in my head. So, which may be wrong. We'll see. Let's run it. True, false, true. Came back. Requirements are good. These are unit tests again. Gotta have them unit test. Alright, those look good. Large power base exponent. Create a function called large power that takes base and exponent. I'm just gonna copy this. Come on. We don't need to rewrite everything. Come on. We're coders. We wanna code lazy. Come on. Alright, so if base is raised to the exponent, that's how you do that, is greater than 5,000, return true, right? And then else return false. Okay, so let's do our unit test here. And we should get a true false. True false. Our function looks good. These are becoming easier and easier to do, right? So create a function called divisible by 10. It has a parameter called num. The function return true if the number is divisible by 10 and false. So this is pretty simple. They're trying to trick us here. So let's not get tricked. So we're going to say if the number modulo 10, right? So if this divided by 10 gives us a remainder, or in this case, doesn't give us a remainder, then we should return true. Right, and then else. Why did it do? Oh, that's right. Else return false. So the modulus says the remainder should always be 0. Right? If it's divisible by 10, 100 divided by 10, there's no remainder because it goes directly into it 10 times. So we should get a true false test. Oh, let's control Z that. Oh, that was right. So test 1, test 2, so we should see true false. We got true false, test pass, we're good. Look how fast we're coding now. Alright, create a function called max number, has 3 parameters. Def, alright. The function return the largest of these numbers. If any two numbers tie is the largest, you should return it's a tie. So, if num1 is greater than num2 and num1 is greater than num3, return, what am I supposed to return? Return num1. If num2 is greater than num1 and num2 is greater than num3, return num2. This is silly. Three is greater than. There's got to be a better way to do this. Num3 is greater than num2. I'm for sure there's a better way to do this, right? And then else return it's a tie. There has to be a better way to do this. There's no way we're just making like a bunch of conditional statements. All right, so let's look at the unit test. This one should print 10. Oh, num3, I put a space because I'm crazy. Let's rerun it. So first unit test passes. Second unit test should print 5. Prints 5. Third one should print -5. It's a tie. Ooh. Should print -5 and instead printed a 5. If 3 is greater than 1 and 3 is greater than 2, return 3. If 2 is greater than 1 and 2 is greater than 3, return 2. So it's a tie. So what it was looking for, so -5 is greater than -10. But -10 is equal to -10. So in this case, number 2 is equal to number 3. So the first statement should have printed out. It should say if number 1 is greater than number 2, which it is, and number 1 is, look at that, we have a wrong symbol, greater than. Let's rerun. Okay, -5, last unit test. That's why we unit test. It's a tie. Look at that. All tests pass. We all look good. Moving on to the next one. Oh boy. Create a function called overBudget. So I'm just copying and pasting what they give me here. The function should return true if the budget is less than the sum of the other 4 parameters. Wow. You've gone over budget, return false otherwise. So the function should return true if budget is less than the sum of all the other ones. So if the budget, so first of all, I'm going to create a variable called sum. Sum of bills. I don't know. Sum of bills is going to be equal to the food bill plus the electricity bill plus the internet bill plus the rent. And then I'm going to say if the budget is less than, I'm going to say or equal to, sum of bills. Okay, then we're going to return true, else we're going to return false. Okay, and so let's see what the first unit test should print false. It printed true, so we did something wrong. First of all, let's just run it like that. It does print false. So, interesting. So the requirements, I guess, had to be less than budget. Can't be equal to the budget. Okay. That's not how I would write it, but okay. So unit test pass. So unit test error should print true. It printed true for the second one. Let's do the next one. Number 9, always false. Okay. Hold on. We didn't copy this. Let's copy it. Okay, so create a function named always false that has one parameter called num, which we did, using an if statement, your variable number in the operator greater than and less than, make it so your function return false no matter what number is stored into num. But using an if statement, your variable num and the operator greater than and less than, make it so your function will return false no matter what number is stored into num. If any statement is always false, it's called a contradiction. You really want to do this with programming, but it's also important to realize you can do this. So I would say if num is less than 0 and greater than 1, right? So if it's less than 0, if it's less than 1, if number return so if a number is less than 1 and greater than 1, it should return false. So it should always print false. So let's run. Oh, I need to put the parameter, Jesus. Cancel, so learn. So false passes. Okay, so this is very interesting. So what they're teaching us that if a condition should never be true, it'll always return false. If any statement that is always false, it's called a contradiction. Okay, cool. That was neat, I guess. Is this the final one? It looks like it might be. Okay, what do they want? Create a function named not sum to 10 that has 2 parameters called num1, num2. Return true if num1 and num2 do not sum to 10. If num... First of all, let's do sum of num is equal to num1 plus num2. First and foremost. And then we'll do an if sum of num is not equal to 10. Then return true. Ah, why did I put a colon there? And then, oh god, that's so dumb. Turn true, and then otherwise return false, right? This seems like that's how they want it. So let's go here, let's go here, let's go here, and let's run these unit tests. We should get a true and two falses. We got a unexpected indentation. Okay, which means all the indentations are okay. So we did get the true and the two falses, and then finally, last one, let's go. Same name function. Create a function called same name. It has two parameters, your name and my name. And then if your name is equal to my name, then return true, else return false. This is a pretty easy one. Unit test should come back true, false, true, false. Awesome. Customer service bot. What is this? So it looks like we're gonna have a project coming up. I'll be right back.
Mic on.
Hello. Let's do some Python. All right, Kevin got stuck at the gym, so we're gonna skip this one with him. All right, let's get a couple things set up first. All right, so we're officially recording. So this lesson will be Python as lists. So a list is an order set of objects in Python. In Python, we can create a variable called heights and store these variables into it as they're showing it. Or store these numbers, I'm sorry. Create a variable called heights and store a bunch of numbers in it. So they're showing us that they can store a list of numbers. So add Cole's height to the end of the list of heights, which is 65. So 65. And we run that, remove the hashtag in front of broken heights. And if you run this code, you'll get an error. Because it doesn't have commas. So it looks like commas are necessary when creating lists. They separate each object. So in this case, I have a list of 5 objects that happen to be numbers. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the hashtag back. Or I think they want us to fix this. So to fix this, all we do is we add commas, and we run it. And move on to the next one. List 2. List can contain more than just numbers. Let's revisit our height example. We can make a list of strings, such as student names. So this is a list of names. Each name is considered an object of that list. Okay, we can also combine multiple data types. So I have Jenny61 mixed list. So a list can contain, I think, any data type. So, and those things will be objects. Add any string to the list, ints and strings. So we're gonna add I see the stars, and we'll run this. Create a new list. Let's do that. Called Sam height. That contains the string Sam. So it looks like we just, to create a list, we make an open bracket, and then we put in our first object, and then we put in our second object. And to see this, what we're going to do is we're going to print out the variable just so we can actually see it function. So let's print Sam height, spelled correctly. Let's run this. If you look, it prints out Sam's height as you see it in the object. I'm sorry, as you see it in the list. List to list. We've seen that items can be listed numbers of strings. They can also be other lists. So what they're saying is that we can store a list inside of a list. So create a new student called Vic. A new student called Vic has joined our class and is 68 inches tall add a sublist to heights that represent fixed in a site. So it looks like, so they created a mini list here. Just said Jenny is 61 inches tall, Alexis is 70 inches tall, Sam is 67 inches tall, Grace is 64 inches tall. So what they're doing is, let's just rewrite this so we can demonstrate and we can see what's going on here. So we type in heights is equal to, so here's our first list, right? With inside of that list, we create another list called Jenny, comma 61, right? So that's our first list inside of our list. We put a comma and we can create a second list, and that's where we get Alexis, and so on and so forth. So all they're showing us is that there's mini lists inside this larger list, this bracket here, this bracket here. So we're going to add another object, and that object's going to be Vic. So to add Vic, we're going to do this, comma, he's 68 inches tall, 68, and what we'll do is we'll print heights just so we can see its functionality in the terminal. So we'll run this. You can see it prints out a list of the student's name followed by how tall they are. Create a list called ages. So let's do that, ages. And we know it's a list, so we know it has to be in brackets. Braces, I guess. Where each sublist contains a student's name and their age. Use the following data. Aaron is 15 and Daruti is 16. So this is simple. So let's make a space just so we can visually see this. We're going to open up a new list inside of our list. Okay? And we're going to put a comma and we're going to put a space and put a new list because we're adding two new lists. So I already put our two new lists here inside of our larger list. So in the first part of the list, we have Aaron, okay, followed by a comma, and who's 15. In the second list we have Daruti, and if I misenunciate that, I apologize to my Indian brethren, or whatever ethnicity that is. Alright, and I'm going to clean it up a little bit, and so we have a list called ages, and what we're going to do is we're going to, again, Control Z to undo that. What we do is we want to see the functionality, so we're going to print ages. We're going to run it, and we're going to see that we have a second list here with Aaron and Daruti, 15 and 16. So, ages, let's see, Aaron was misspelled. We're going to rerun this, and it clears. Again, with Codecademy, if you misspell a variable, it'll stop you. It just happens. Also, if you misspell a variable, it's important to double check your work. That's why we make unit tests, though. Cool, so let's see. So, creating and modifying a list in Python. Suppose we already had a list of names and a list of heights. So here they give us an example. We want to create a list of paired each name with each height. We can do a command zip. Zip takes two or more lists as inputs and return the object contains this list of pair. Each pair contains one element from each input. You won't be able to see much about this object just from printing it. Because it will likely return the location of the object in memory, the output will look like something like this. Zip object add. To see the nested list, you can convert zip into an object list first. Yeah, you're probably stored into a variable. So we need to create it. So use zip to create a new variable, names and dogs names. And so what it's saying is if you took dog names, right, and you just printed out zip, the function zip, on the two parameters, you get this memory reference. Now, something about computer science that you need to know right now is that when we write programs, they're stored in the memory, but they're stored, so what happens is the memory gets split up into something called bits, and there's like 8 bits to a byte. Well, those bits will determine, they'll act like an address. So each little block of memory will act like an address. And at that address, they'll store a value. And that value in binary, okay, will be equivalent to whatever you name your variable and the value of the variable that you store inside of it. So each of these addresses kind of work kind of like a library system where you go check out a library book. If you need to go find a history book on World War II, well, it's located in a specific section, and there's an index that you can go, or a list that you can look through and go grab that book. Well, variables in computer science work the same way. Variables are stored in memory, and then there's an address assigned to that piece of memory. And so then the variable becomes associated with that address. And this right here, this reference, 0x, it's a hexadecimal code for the memory address. Okay, so we'll get into that way later down the line, but just be aware of it now. It's cool because whenever you see the errors on computers and you see reference memory at 0x blah blah blah, now you know that that's a little tiny block of memory that's storing some information. And it has an error either because it doesn't, like the little address doesn't know where to go next, because it's not given a command to go look at the next address it needs to go in memory, or it does something else. There's a lot that goes into it, and we're just barely touching it. So let's go ahead and get back to this. So we're going to create a new variable, names of dogs, that combine names and dog names into a zip object. Names and dog names. Okay, let's run this, see if that works. Oh no. Dog names is not defined. Oh, it's not. Names. It is though. Dog names is right here, right? Did I misspell this? Am I slow? What's going on here? Dog names is alright. Hold on one second. Alright, and we're back. Alright, so let's take a look. Did we do anything wrong? Zip takes names and dogs. Let's see. Run this and create a new variable named list of names and dog names. List. No. Okay, no. So I'm reading the second set of requirements incorrectly. So list of names and dogs names. Okay. By calling list on names and dogs names, print this new variable. Okay. Wow, this is such a long variable, dude. List. And we should just really copy and paste this. No reason to. If you had a real IDE like Visual Studio Code, what would happen is it would just autofill this. Okay, so let's run this, see if we have any errors. We do not. So what they're saying is names and dog names zip. So let's do this. Let's print out names and dogs names. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to run this, and you can see that it creates an object at that reference memory. So what they're saying is that in order to avoid getting this object reference when we're trying to print what's in this variable, we have to first run a method on it called list. And when we run that method called list, what it does is it converts it back. It goes to that address, and it looks to see what's stored in it, and then it ships it back to us. So that's essentially what's happening. Okay, empty list. Why would you want to create an empty list? So you can create an empty list because you want to store something in the future. And at the top of the code, it has nothing in it, but you're going to start adding things or taking things out of it. That kind of makes your code dynamic. Let's run this. Create my empty list. I cannot spell, I swear to you. It says my one weakness is I can't spell. It's beyond me, I don't know. I guess I never paid much attention to it in school. Okay, so growing a list, append. So growing a list means we're adding things to a list or we're appending. So we can add a single element to a list using the dot append. For example, suppose we have an empty list, so they show us here. They're going to add the number 1 to the list, and they print the list, and they get 1 inside of that list. Okay, so we're just adding things to the end of the list. It's important to remember that dot append comes after the list. This is different from functions like print. So, which we just did, right? So list comes before the variable, but print comes before the variable. But dot methods, dot append, I think we'll get probably dot pop, which is remove. These things go after the variable. So let's look at our instructions. Jiho works for a gardening store called Pedal Power. He keeps a record of orders in a list called orders. Use the print to inspect the orders he's received today. So obviously we're going to print out orders. Cool. We're going to run this. Okay, next one. He just received a new order. Okay, so use the dot append to add to the string orders. So what we're going to do is we're going to take orders, dot append, and we're going to put the string tulips into the order, and then we're going to reprint order. So what you'll see first is you'll see this list get printed, and then you'll see the list get printed with the dot append on it. So remember, code executes from, in this case, top to bottom. So we printed out orders before we appended it, and when we appended it, we reprinted it out to see that we added tulips to it. Okay, and then we're gonna append roses. So we'll do the same thing here. We'll just capture this, and you can kind of see, like, if you paid attention during our functions, that dynamic code can be updated, right? So in your head, you should be thinking, oh, so this is what happens when people order stuff in like a cart, right? You just append the cart, right? So it's the same thing here. You're going to append the cart with an object, and then the object's going to represent a piece of inventory. So when they actually buy stuff from you, that object will get sent back to your software that then tells you to go ahead and ship this item to this person. So you can kind of see how we're appending their order, and it's getting larger by using this method, dot append. Okay, growing a list plus plus. When we want to add multiple items list, we can use the plus symbol to combine two lists. So let's look at their example. Item sold, cake, cookie, and bread. Item sold equals, item sold new is equal to item sold plus biscuit, tart, and okay, so they used a plus symbol here to add these objects into this variable. This variable holds a list of things. So they're adding these two things to the list. That's all they're doing right here. We can only use the plus with other lists if we type this in the code. Error can only concatenate list, not into list. Interesting. We can create a new variable which contains both the original item and the new one. We can inspect the original item sold and see that it did not change. Interesting. We can only use the plus with other lists. So this is not considered a list. So when you add the integer 4, okay, to 1, 2, and the list one that has 1, 2, and 3 in it, it can't add it into this list because what it's trying to do is it's trying to take this integer and add it as like an operator, as in like this plus this equals this. Well, because that 4 is not technically a list, it doesn't work. So you can see they converted it into a list down here by putting brackets around it, and then that makes it work. Okay, so let's look here. Jiho is updating a list of orders. He just received orders for Lilac and Iris. Use the plus symbol, so create new orders here. Do I have to create it? Yeah, new orders is equal to orders, right, plus a new list, which now you can either say Lilac, right, comma Iris, or you can split these up. I'm pretty sure you can split those up into two separate objects and then add them. It doesn't matter. And what I mean by that is you put like a bracket on the end here. right? So you can make them 2 lists or you can make them 1 list. It doesn't matter. So let's run this and it'll pass. And how do we know it passes? Because we can print new orders, right? And then here we can print orders. It's our mini unit test here. In our first order, we don't get Lilac and Iris. In our second order, we do. So remove the hashtag in front of broken prices. We did. If you run this code, you get an error. Yep, because we can't add 4. Fix this by inserting a bracket. So we're fixing this list by adding braces around this 4, which convert it from integer. And it works. All right. So they're just saying lists have to be added to list. If it's not a list, meaning if it doesn't have these braces or brackets around them, it can't. You can't add them together because the list itself acts like its own data type, right? Like you can only add an integer with an integer, or a float with a float, or a string with a string. It's the same thing. A list with a list. That's essentially what we're getting at. Let's talk about ranges. So ranges in computer science are pretty simple. They just represent a point in a position, or 2 points in a position, and everything in between those points. So if your range is between 1 and 4, then it'll include everything between 1 and 4, including 1 and 4. All right, so let's see. Python gives us an easy way of creating lists using the function called range. The function range takes a single input and generates numbers starting at 0 and then ends at the range. So that's cool. So here, list 1, range 3 would print out 0, 1, 2, and 3, I think. Let's see. 1 through 10 will print out everything but 10. So this will print out 0, 1, and 2. Modify list so that it contains starting at 0 up to but not including 9. So range 9. Right? And then let's print this out so we can see it. Print list 1 and range 0 to 9. So, I wonder if this is one of those ones where it's like we have to modify it with that method that they gave us last time. Nope, we can't use. Oh, we're missing a parenthesis. We can. So again, we use this method called list, right? In order to see what's inside of the variable. Because right now a range is stored in there, and the range is just 0, 9. If we print out list, it'll print out the entire list. And so you see that range 9 is 0 to 8, and if we change that to 6, it would be 0 to 5. If we change it to 2, it would be 0 and 1. If we change it to 1, it would be just 0. So remember, the range stops one place before the number you put in the range. So you put in 10, this range will end in 9. If you put in 11, this range will end in 10. It'll go 0 to 10. Alright, so create a range called range 1 with an... Okay, so range 1 is equal to, with the numbers 0 through 7. So the range, we want the range to be 8. Right? Because it'll end 1 before whatever we put in the range. And then we're going to print that out because we want to see that, because we're good coders and developers. We always want to see what our code's doing. And then we'll run it, and you'll see it prints out 0 through 7. Range 2, we can use the range to generate more interesting lists. By default, range creates a list starting at 0. However, we call a range with 2 arguments. We can create a list that starts at a different number. For example, 2 and 9 would generate numbers starting at 2 and ending at 8. Great. So let's just move on. This is pretty simple to understand. Modify a range function. So modify the range function that creates list 1 such that it starts at 5. So the range starts at 5. It has a difference of 3 between each item and it ends before 15. We should go back and look at that. There's 3 arguments here. I didn't see that. If we use a third argument, we can create a list that skips numbers. For example, range 292 will give us a list where each number is 2 greater than the previous number. we can skip as many numbers as we want. In this example, we'll start at 1, skip 10 between each number, and then we'll get to 100. So the first two numbers will be your range. So 5 to 15 will be the number 5 through 14. And 2 will count up, so it'll be 7, 9, 11, 13. Our list stops at 91, blah, blah, blah. So modify the range function so that it starts at 5 and has a difference of 3 between each item. So I think they want us to put -3. Let's run that. Nope. But just to see what's going on, I want to print this out. And list 1. We got a list 1, right? And let's run this and see what's going on. It prints nothing because it goes backwards, right? And the difference of 3 is 3. We run this, it goes 5, 8, 11, 14, which is what they wanted. Create a range object called list2. So list2 that's going to start at 0 and ends before 40 and has a difference of 5 between each item, right? So this will count up by 5s from 0. So we'll do the same thing here. We're going to write the unit test. We're going to print list and list2, right? Cool. And we're gonna organize this so it doesn't look crazy. Okay, I'm gonna run this, and we're missing a parenthesis. That's why we unit test. All right, so there's the second range. So not too hard. So if we get 2 parameters, the parameters will be the first parameters where, so when I say parameter, I mean this first little number inside of the function range, right? The first parameter defines where the range starts. The second parameter defines where the range will stop. Okay, excluding the number put in. So it'll never reach 15. It'll end at 14. And then the third, if you have a third parameter, it'll tell you to skip every blank. So in this case, we put 3. We could have put 2, 4, 5. If we would have put 2, it would have went from 5 to 7 instead of 8. But 5 plus 3 is 8. And then it comes back and it says plus 3 is 11, plus 3 is 14. All right, so this is review. So Maria's entering customer data for a web design business. You're going to help her organize data. Start by first turning this list of customers' first names into a list called first names. Okay, so again, Python's super quick. First names is equal to, and then we're going to create a list, and inside of that list, we're going to put these strings. Ainsley, what is this? Ben, Chani, and then Deepak. I don't know these names. Okay, and then again, I always, as a beginner, want to see what it prints out, and it prints out this. That's great. Create an empty list called age. Empty lists are just brackets. Brought it. Boom. Use append to add 42 to age. I misspelled append because, again, I can't spell. And 42, not 3. And we're going to print out age because, again, we want to see it on the terminal, and it gives us none. That's not good. What did we do wrong? Age is equal to age dot append 42. Create an empty list. Because remember what we said? It has to be a list. We just tried to append the integer 42. Nope, that wasn't. So age did not match the expected values. So age is equal to this. Age append 42. Print age. Is it print list? Age? I don't think that changes anything actually. Traceback most recent call, script PUI list age. None type is not iterable. So it's saying is that I broke this. So I broke age before it got here. So age, so I think we just append 42. Let's see, and run it. Yeah. So age, so we're not restoring the value into the variable. So that's interesting. So that probably created like a logical loop where age is trying to restore itself into age, but it can never do that. So you're appending 42 into age and restoring it into age. You can't use a dot append equals to. So we can't say equal age cannot equal age dot append. Age cannot equal age dot append 42. You just straight up append it. So that's nice and simple. So let's create a new list called all ages. It combines ages plus the following list of 32, 41, 29, and then once again, remember we got to print list, and we're gonna print all ages. We have to print list this method here, and we got a problem is not defined. Ages is not defined. Oh, because it's supposed to be age, right? Run this, bam. Again, that's why we unit tests. All right. Create a new variable called name and age. And age, it combines first names and all ages. Remember, we're going to use the zip feature here, or zip function. We're going to print list of name and age, and we're going to run it. And look at this. It created our sort of objects for us. That's pretty cool. Create a range object called IDs. So we're going to create IDs is equal to a range with an ID number for each customer. There are 4 customers, so the range should be from 0 to 3. Right? Ooh, what did I do? IDs range end at 4. IDs. Oh, I put a space there. Let's try that again. Cool. Does it end at 4? Yes, it does. Is this wrong? Oh, if it ends at 4, it should have been, yeah, 0 to 3. I should have put 4, right? Because I wanted to end at 3. And I put 3, which means it ends at 2. So that's where my mistake was. All right. So let's go ahead and start this project. Gradebook. You're a student and you're trying to organize subjects and grades using Python. Let's explore what we've learned to organize your subjects. If you get stuck during this project, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so create a list called subjects. So we already know that a list starts like this. And fill it with the classes you're taking. So we're taking physics, calculus, poetry, and history. Okay. Create a list called grades. Grades is equal to a list, right? Starts empty. And fill it with the scores of 98, 97. It's a good student, huh? 85, and 88. Great. So let's go ahead and mark this complete. Use the zip function to combine the subject and grades. God, so here you would write a unit test. I would say if, subjects dot length or length dot length dot, I don't know. You would measure the length, okay, of subjects, and you would check it against the length of grades, right? Right. This is what you would normally do. You say, okay, so if those two are equal, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a variable called list, and we're going to equal it to empty. And we're going to enter here. Uses a function to combine object and grade, save this as a list into a variable called gradebook. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing this the way that we would want to do it in the real world. We would want to make sure that those two things, those two lists, have equal lengths. Otherwise, you cannot compare them, right? Because what if you get no value, but then you get like an 88? And you'll see what I'm talking about when we take care of this. So gradebook is going to equal to 0, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use a zip function. So we're going to say zip, and we're going to call zip on subjects and grades. Okay, and we're going to say grades plus equals. Let's just add that, see what happens, right? And then we'll come back out of the function and we'll print gradebook as a list. So print gradebook as a list and end. Okay. Let's just see if this works. See what happens. List has no attribute called length. So how do we measure length in Python? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Google it right now. The length method. So I guess length actually goes before subjects. So, which I thought it did, but I wasn't sure. And it's called len, right? And I'm sure they'll cover this later on. Len. But you're like, Jeff, why are you writing things this way? Save. List object has no attribute called length. Oh. Well, excuse me. Alright, so let's see what error. Can only concatenate a list, not zipped to the list. So, this is true. Gradebook is equal to. Hey, look at that. So, we created the list with each of the scores. Okay, so real world example here. Okay. We wanted to create a new variable called gradebook. We made it empty. We then checked to make sure, and we'll put an else statement here too. We'll say else print objects do not match. There are too many. We're going to string whatever the length of subjects is, and would say too many. I'm sorry. So I'll explain what I'm doing. If you already know what I'm doing, that's great. If you don't know what I'm doing, we'll explain it in a second. Okay. So you're like, Jeff, what the hell are you doing with that? Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm making this print statement. So let's just run this print statement outside, right? So let's just print this. String length. An unexpected indentation, right? Because this is supposed to be tabbed. This is supposed to be. What? I'm hitting spacebar. Okay, thank you, Jesus. Alright, let's save. You know what? What we're gonna do is we're gonna get rid of this entire else block. And we're gonna just save this. Print? Wait. String length. This, oh, because print, that's so dumb, dude. Print was not, it was still, so it was expecting it to be inside of a function. So, let's see. Print objects, let's see, grades plus grades. None type in string. Unsupported operand for types for none type. So subjects, length, oh man. So I think what has to happen is here, we actually have to put list in front of subjects, which gives us another ugly parenthesis. And I think we have to put list. I don't know for sure. Let's see. Let's see what happens. No. Length dot subjects. Let's backcheck. Okay. So maybe we don't need to stringify that, right? Maybe we can just get direct values. Let's see, invalid syntax. So too many prints. Len list. Subjects, length of grades, right? So there should only be one set of parentheses. Yay for debugging. Save. Unexpected EOF error. What? Okay, let's get rid of this. Okay, and then should I rerun this? Is there like empty space? Like, let's see. Oh, nope. Okay, so moving on. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to print out objects do not match subjects, and then we're trying to print out the length of subjects. But I guess really, like, what you could do is you could say subject s underscore length is equal to len, right? Subjects, right? And then you could say g underscore length for grades is equal to len grades. And then you could check, you could just put the variable g length, and then you could put in the variable s length. I think. I have no idea. Save this. EOF while parsing. I don't know what this error means. Let's see what it says. So syntax error EOF was parsing. Let's see what the unexpected EOF. Let's see. Don't use input. It says use input. So the output is wrong. Well, we don't have a parenthesis, so that's part of it, right? And we need to have another parenthesis. No, we don't. Objects int into object cannot convert int into object. Okay, so I think we got this now. I think we got this. So remember, we're using str to convert to string. Okay. So this was going to be our else statement here. Objects do not match. There are too many. Subjects 4, grades 4. So this would be our unit test for our else statement. Else. Okay, so if we would put if the length of the subjects is equal to the length of the grades, then go ahead and zip the subjects and the grades. Print out the grade book. Okay? Otherwise, in our else statement, we would write an else statement, and then we would put this else statement in here that says the objects don't match, okay? The subjects are this many and the grades are this many. So it shows you where the mismatch is. So that's that's what we'll write in code, and we'll say else statement for block above. And this is something that, like, if you were writing with a team, you would leave this comment in there, and then another teammate would go in later on and would figure out how to refactor this. Because if you really want to refactor this to make it look nice, what you would do is you would do this. You'd put your, make sure grades, S length, subjects, and grades have to be defined first, right? So after they get defined, you define your lengths, and then instead of the length of subjects and then the length of grades, you would put S length here. You'd move these variables down. And this would be G length, because they're defined here essentially into variables. And then you would save this, and you would see that it still runs properly. But another teammate would come in here and do this for you, like if you didn't have enough time. So print gradebook, does it look how you would expect? Yes, it does. Your grade for computer science class just came in. You got a perfect score. It's 100. Awesome. So after your definitions of subjects and grades, but before you create gradebook, so gradebook is being created here, and I'm going to put in the comments gradebook, right? And then make this look a little bit more appropriate. So I'm going to put 2 spaces. Cool. And then this is our else statement, so I'd put that there. Cool. So, okay, what does this want? This says use append to add computer science and subjects to computer science and subjects to 100 to grades. So, to subjects, we're going to append it, and we're going to add in computer science. Okay, this is what they're asking us to do in the requirements. And to grades, we're going to append the number 100. Okay, so here's our current list before we entered our new code, and then we'll rerun this. You can see computer science gets appended. So really this would come in as a function. So again, and this is so silly, but this is, honestly, this is what we would do. We would create a function here, and we would say add subject, and it would take a parameter, and it would take a subject, and it would take a grade. Right? And then what we would do is we would say subjects dot append whatever comes in as the subject. Let me change this to grade. Subjects dot append whatever comes in as grade, right? And then I think that's all she wrote. We don't need to return this, do we? I guess we could return grades, but what grades currently look like. And so I don't know. Let's test this, right? So let's comment these out. Okay. And then let's write our test here. So our test would say that we have a new subject, and it's called computer science. You know what? We don't even have to do that. What we can do is we can print it right here. We can say print right? Add subject, and we're going to add in computer science as the first parameter, and 100 is the second parameter. Okay? And then we're going to run everything and see if it works. I don't know. Return, oh, I can't spell. Return. I don't know what return grades does, honestly. Okay. So everything got printed out, but it did not add. It did not add. Let's see. It appended subject. It appended grade. Return subject and grade, maybe? I guess you know what? I guess we have to just call the function here. Add subject here. Save this. I have an extra. Yeah. Save this. It doesn't though. So let's see. So okay, so again, we're trying to make this into a real world use case. Because essentially you'd want to make this a function because you don't want to just have to manually keep adding in things into your list. You want to create a function that handles it. So what's interesting is subjects.append. I'm pretty sure that variable does not exist inside of here. Print subjects. So let's save this and see. It doesn't print anything out because it never gets called properly. Add subject computer science, right? And grade. And then it should append subjects. Oh, subjects and grades append. Grades.append. Oh, computer science did get added. Oh, okay. So the if statement never triggered because I had the wrong variable here. So if we save this, look at that. We did it. All right. So, granted, Codecademy did not tell us to do this at all, but based on what we have already learned, we should have recognized that we needed to create a function to add things into our list, right? So as you can see, instead of doing this, right, we can now add things. So we're going to say this is add subjects and grades. Okay. And then before we get to gradebook, we can put all our functions in here. And so this, I mean, you can sort of see where we're going with this in computer science. That's great. That's great. And we have an if statement that will only allow the code to run correctly, right? So this piece here will only run if everything in here is correct. So that's how we were able to test our function. So Visual Arts just came in and you got a 93. So use append to add Visual Arts to Visual Arts in 93. Well, again, what we can do this time is we can just copy this, paste this down, we change this to Visual Arts, and we change our score to 93. And then we save it, and I forgot to put a parenthesis, and we save it, and Visual Arts gets added to that list. So now you can see why functions are useful. Not only do you see why functions are useful, but we just demonstrated how you can use it in code. Join the jet. The video is off-centered. It is not. Let's see what OBS says. Nope, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to look. Yeah, so I'm scrolling up or down from the side. Let's see. Let me scroll all the way up and take a look and see what it looks like. I see what you mean by off center though. Let's see. Oh, it looks like I can fix it on my end. I must have moved it on my stream output. I just fixed it. All right. So my video is gonna take like 3 minutes to catch back up. There we go. Is it centered? It should be centered now, I think. Yeah, it's centered now. Cool. So again, let's reiterate. We took what Codecademy gave us and we tried to make it better, right? So now you can see why functions are useful. because they allow us to repeat things. So visual arts is done. Boom. You also have your grades from semester stored in last semester gradebook. So create a new variable called full gradebook. With items from both gradebook and last semester gradebook. So this is just a simple gradebook plus whatever last semester gradebook. So do we have a gradebook? Last semester. Oh, right here. And then let's print out the list of full gradebook. I'll save this. And what did I forget? I forget something. Let's see. Line 26. There is no line 26. So did I miss? I miss a parenthesis. I always miss parentheses. Come on. Interesting. So it's saying last semester because I can't spell. Zip and list. So this is a list? Ah, so I'm supposed to zip these guys, eh? No, I am not. So I can add gradebook. So where's gradebook? Gradebook is an empty list. Yes. Full gradebook equals gradebook plus last semester gradebook. Type unsupported operand types for plus zip and list. So one of them is a list and one of them is a zip. So what we can do is let's convert both of these into lists. I have a sneaking suspicion that gradebook is not a list. Gradebook is currently being stored as something else. Let's save this. Yeah. So in fact, we can get rid of this. So remember that gradebook is being stored as a memory reference. So let's save it. And this puts both semesters together. And you can see list number 1 here and list number 2 there. And it adds these two lists together as one list. Let's see. So this is list 1. This is list 2. Print list full gradebook. Can I just print full gradebooks? What happens when I do that? Huh, same thing. Now I wonder, so what's interesting is it doesn't merge these into one list. Create new variable, but it gives us both lists together. So I don't know if that's the requirement or not. So what we'll do is we'll save this. This is pretty cool. We're gonna copy this and we're gonna go to our Visual Studio Code and we're gonna create a new file and we're gonna save it under our project file under projects. Let's see what Codecademy is telling us. What was the name of this? Python Gradebook. Okay, so let's go back into our Visual Studio Code and we'll just put gradebook books exercise .py. We're going to save this and we're going to paste our code here and we're going to save it and let's close it out and let's see what's up next. We're going to do the quiz. All right. We're waiting on Codecademy right now. Okay, how could we add Hawaii, Alaska to the list of states? So states.append Hawaii, Alaska. That looks good. States plus Hawaii, Alaska. No, states plus Hawaii, Alaska. That kind of looks good, no? How could we add? So states, I like this, to be honest. And it is wrong. It was this. We can only add one item at a time using .append. So append only works on one thing at a time. So if we need to add multiple things, we have to use the plus operator. That's good to know. I didn't know that. Which of the following would create a range of objects that starts at 3? So range has to start at 3. So we already know that this one and this one are out. And goes up to but not including 15. So 315, and where each number is, so we know that if it doesn't include 15, it must end in our range function at 15. That's how this will end at 14. It's always whatever the maximum of the range is minus 1. So this would go from 3 to 14 by 4. Which of the following is the correct way to add a number 4 to my list? So my list plus 4 is incorrect. My list dot append 4, that looks a lot better. My list dot append 4 as an object. So this is 4 as a list of one thing. So, oh, that was wrong. So it was my list dot append 4. So that's interesting because in the lesson it told us that we can only append things that are lists, but I guess we can only do that with the plus operator. Let's go back and see what it said. Hold on. It won't let me go back. Which of these commands would create a list of numbers starting at 0 and up to but not including 9? So a list of numbers, so range. We know it's going to be list range. And starting at 0, but not including 9 means it has to end at 10. So list range, yeah. So it's this guy. No! Up 0, but not including 9. List range 9. I don't know about that. Let's test it out. So it's saying, let's do this. Python, it's saying list a range 9. I guess that's right. Which of these commands will create a list of numbers starting at 0 and up to but not including 9? So I guess list range 10 would include 9, so I didn't pay attention. Okay. Is the following list a valid Python list? Mount Everest and yes. I'm not doing too good on this quiz because I need Kevin. What list would be created by this command? List range 214 4. So we know it'll be between, it'll start with 2 and end with 14 or before 14. So it has to be this one, right? And it counts up by 4. So it should be 2 plus 4. So 2 plus 4 is 6. Right? Here's 6. Plus 4 is 10. So it's that guy. It was 2, 6, 10. So, and it cannot include 14 because it ends here. The middle number of 14. Alright, what would be the output of the following code snippet? String 1, the quick brown. String 2, fox jumps over. String 3 would be string 1 plus string 2. Ooh. And print string 3 plus the lazy dog. So string 3 would be first, right? So string 3 would be string 1, the quick brown fox. Oh, I see, because he puts, what would be the output? The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Okay, the quick brown fox jumps over. I don't understand why they're putting these quotes in here. These quotes make no sense to me. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy. Ah! I see what they're doing here. So brown and fox should technically be next to each other because there's no space here. So brown fox should be one word because they didn't concatenate this correctly. But the lazy dog should be a separate word. So it's between these two. Brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So what they were trying to do was trick us. If you look, there's no spaces between over and the. So, I'm sorry, between brown and fox. So this would be brown fox. It'd be the same word because it joins these together. If you wanted to make it the one at the bottom, you would have to put a space after brown or a space before fox. Which of the following is the correct way to create an empty list? Empty list equals this, nothing. We did this like 50 times. Finally, which of the following is the correct way to create the following list of names? Tom, Jerry, Tweety, and Sylvester. So names as our variable is equal to Tom, Jerry, Tweety, and Sylvester. So these all have commas and a bracket. So this looks good. And 66, we're gonna retake the quiz. We're gonna retake it because I failed. I failed this. All right, these commands. So list range 9, which is the following correct way to create an empty list. We talked about this. We did this like 50 times. We should know by now which of the following is a valid Python list. Is it? Yes, it is valid. Which of the following is the correct way to add the number 4 to my list? My list.append 4. Which of the following would create a range object that starts at 3, goes up to, but not including 15, which each number is greater than 4 greater than the previous number. So it starts at 3, up to, but not including, so it should be 315, which is this guy, right? Yeah, 315, 4. What list would be created by this command? List range 2, 14, 4. We know it's this. What would be the output of the following code snippet? We know that brown fox is one word. Brown fox jumps over the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy. Okay, finally, how can we add Hawaii and Alaska to the list of states? Because remember, append can only take one object. We know that we're going to have to add this list Hawaii and Alaska together with states. And which of the following is the correct way to create the following list of names? Tom and Jerry. So we know names has to be surrounded in brackets. So we know it's either this one or this one. And we know that it has to have a comma between each string. So that's how we know. Yes, we got 100% the second time. Okay, working with lists in Python. All right. So we're going to take a short break and we will be right back.
Mic on.
And we are back. All right. So we just took our quiz and now we're going to look at operations on lists. Now that we know how to create lists, we can start working with lists of data. So in this section, we'll get the length of the list. We already did that. Select subsets of a list called slicing. That'll be fun. And count the number of times that an element can appear in a list. And sort the list of items. Okay, sounds fun. So length of a list, we already know how to do this. Calculate the length of a list 1. Save it to a variable called list1 length is equal to length of list1. And let's run it. So we've already done this. Like print to examine it. All right, print list1 underscore length, and we get 9 because what? Oh, it's counting. Okay, it's counting the range of 2 to 20 by 2's. So that would be 20 divided by 2 minus 1. So that would be 9. All right, change the range command so that it skips 3 instead of 2. So 20 divided by 3 is 6 minus 1 is 5. It is 6. Or it goes, it goes into 18 6 times. Yeah, that makes sense. Jeez Louise. All right. Up next, selecting list elements. Chris is interviewing candidates for a job. He will call each candidate in order represented by this Python list. Okay, and so this is, so here we're going to learn about indexes. So in computer science, a list of an index starts with the number 0. In computer science, we count by 0 as our first number. So Michael would be 0, Dwight would be 1, Jim would be 2, Pam would be 3, Ryan would be 4, Andy would be 5, Robert would be 6. Now, if you count how many items there are here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 items, but we start counting in computer science by 0. So, use the square brackets to select the element in the index to print from and save it to a variable index 4. So, let's show you how to do this. So, index 4 is going to be equal to employees. And I wonder if it just works this way. Index 4. I don't know. The fourth index would be 3. So I think the fourth index would be 3. Let's print index 4. I don't know. Let's do this first. Let's run this. And we got this. So it prints out Ryan, which would be index 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it does print out Ryan. Use the print and let the display how many items are in employees. Come on, man. So print the length of employees. Right? 7. Paste the following code into your script. There should be nothing there, right? We only have 7 guys. Yeah. It's out of range. So the range here is 0 through 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So the range, this range is 0 to 7. We try to get an index 8. 8 would be whatever's next on this list, which is nothing. So therefore we get out of range. Okay. So then they're saying change this to anything. We'll change it to 5. We'll rerun it. We'll get Andy. Moving on. Selecting list elements 2. What if we want to select the last element of a list? We can use the index -1 to select the last item of the list. Huh. Considering the following list with 5 elements, A through E, print. Oh, okay, cool. So in order to get the last, so if we wanted to get the last thing here, we would print shopping list with an index of -1, and that will always, always, always give us our last item. So cereal. So even if we got rid of cereal, let's cut this out and we print this and run it, it would give us juice. So the -1 index just gives us whatever the last item is. So use the print and length to display. So silly, dude. Print the length of shopping list. Okay, let's run this. Print length shopping list. So there we go. Get the last item. We just did that. Didn't we? Get the last by using the, I want to save this element to last element. Okay. So we are going to create last element. Okay. Run it. Now select an element with the next 5 and save it to element 5 is equal to shopping list. I cannot type shopping list for the life of me. List. And we need to get the 5th index. And run it. And then we need to print both of these. So let's print first, last. We're going to print last element. And then we're going to print, what do we print? Element 5? Element 5. And let's run this. Cereal. Alright, cool. Let's go to what's next. Slicing list. Suppose we have a list of letters. Suppose we want to select B through F. We can do this using the following syntax. Letter start, end. Where start is the index of the first element we want. to include in our selection, and we want to start at B, which is index of 1, and end is the index of 1 more than the last index. Okay. So if we want to get B through F, we would have to index B through G, just like numbers. All right. So use the print to examine beginning. So print beginning. Let's run this. Modify beginning so that it selects the first 4 elements of suitcase. So the first 4 elements. Okay. Create a new list called middle. And it contains 2 items, the 2 middle items in suitcase. Okay. So again, this is, so we should use math for this. So first of all, we should take whatever the suitcase, so the length, whatever the length of the suitcase is, right? So really, I mean, gosh, really the way to do this is, we know that there's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that the length is 6. What we should do, divide 6 by 2, right? And then create 2 separate lists. The first list being 0, 1, and 2. And the next list being 3, 4, and 5. And then we should say take number 2 from take the last item of the first list and the first item of the last list, and those are our middle numbers. Like that's how we should do it. But here we're gonna create a new list called middle that contains the 2 middle items for suitcase, which we know are pants. So I'm trying to think of a way we can do this. So we know that the length, so if we take the length, so first of all, let's print the length of the suitcase. Alright, and let's divide that by 2 and see what we get. We do get a number. We do get a number 3. Right? So, and we know that what they're asking us to do is simple, but the way to actually implement this in the real world is not simple at all. Because realistically, we'll never know what's supposed to be in suitcase. Like, this list can change 1,000 times per second. So really what we should do is, we're going to create another function. We're going to call it middle list. And we're going to create a variable called middle. And it's going to be an empty list. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a parameter. And that parameter is going to be a list. In this case, we'll say it's a suitcase. Suitcase is our parameter. Okay? And when we get suitcase, we know that suitcase is going to be a list coming in. What we should do is we should say if the length of the suitcase divided by 2 modulus 2, right? I'll explain this in a second. So, oh boy, modulus. So we're saying, okay, so if the length suitcase modulus 2 is equal to 0, then the length of the suitcase is even. Because if we divide it by 2 and we don't get a remainder, it's divisible by 2 and thus it's even. However, if we divide it by 2 and we get a remainder, we know that it's going to be an odd number. Okay? So, in the cases where we have an even number, what we need to do is we need to find the middle two items from the index. So we know that suitcase divided by 2, we're going to say my middle 1 is equal to my suitcase divided by 2. Okay? And that will, okay, so we can demonstrate this. So if it's 6 divided by 3 divided by 2, which is the middle, we'll get 3. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 divided by 2 gives us 1, 2, 3 pants. So then we also know middle 2 is going to be equal to the suitcase plus 1. So this is going to give us numbers, right? This is going to give us numbers. So it's going to be whatever the length of the suitcase is divided by 2 is going to give us a number in lengths of the suitcase. And again, we just wrote it twice. We should probably say L suitcase, right? Is equal to len suitcase. And we just, so we don't have to recopy all this shit. So let's copy this and paste it and paste it. This is really what we should do, right? We know that if the number's even, then to find the middle, you divide it by 2, and that'll give you the first item. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You divide it by 2, and you get the third. This is actually wrong. It's supposed to be that. The third index, 0, 1, 2, 3, will be the first middle item. And then if you take that number, subtract 1, that'll give you your second number. Right? And then what we can do is we can return suitcase. So, yeah, we're going to return middle plus. Oh, this is going to be strange. We're going to say plus, right? Middle 1, comma. Middle, no. Yeah, dude. Oh my god. I mean, okay, so what we can do is we can add to this list. So we can say that we're going to do a couple things. We're going to return. So we can return suitcase. No, we need to return middle plus a list that is suitcase. So middle 1, that gives us an integer. This is so, okay. So we can say middle 1 is equal to L suitcase divided by 2. That gives us the index number, right? So technically, what we have now is we have suitcase, which is the list that came in, middle 1, okay, plus, we don't want to actually add these in because they're going to be integers. So I'm going to convert these into strings. I don't know if this will work. Let's hope that it does. Plus. No, because you know what? We need to make these into list items. So suitcase.middle1 should be a list item. So we should say middle is plus. We can append. We can append. We can do it one at a time. That kind of, right? We can do it one at a time. We can append middle one. Okay, and then middle dot append. The same thing, but middle two. And middle two. Now what I'm concerned about is trying to add these as list items with the plus operator. I don't know if that's gonna work. And then return middle, right? And that return statement's for the print. Okay, and then we're in an else statement. And so the else statement says, okay, if the length of the item divided by 2 gives us a remainder, then the index that we return -1 will be the middle. So for example, here we have 6 divided by 2, which is 3. If we count 1, 2, 3, that's the middle, right? But the index 3, 0, 1, 2, 3 is this here, right? So if we got rid of books, let's get rid of books in this case, right? And let's redo this thing. So now we have 5. 5 divided by 2. So 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, right? So you count 0, 1, 2.5 would be between these two, right? And you would get a remainder of 1. So what you need to do is you need to round up to the nearest number. So we need, if it's 5 divided by 2, we take the 3. So we need this. So what I think we can do is we can add the remainder to our divisor. I don't know how we can do this, actually. It'd be interesting to see. So let's just talk it out. So if the number is odd, then 5 divided by 2, in this case, the length would be 5. Divided by 2 is the same as multiplying by 0.5. It doesn't matter. It gives us 2.5. We need to always round that number up. And then that number rounded up, indexed, would be 3, right? Or can we lower it? I don't know. This may be something we figure out later, as to not burn too much time on this. Instead, what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna print this number is odd, and then we're gonna call the function here by saying middle list, and we're gonna pass suitcase into it, and let's store that into a variable called middle, my middle is equal to, okay, let's see if we get an error. We're gonna print out my middle, take suitcase. Okay, let's spread it. See if we get an error. My middle, invalid syntax because I got a space. Alright, see any more errors? No. So, shirt, pants. It says the number is odd, which is true because we kept it as odd. We're going to paste it. We're going to run it, and we get a different error. Shirt, pants, pants. Shirt, pants. Interesting. So, print beginning. So, let's see where the error is. List indices must be integers or slices and not floats. So where was this error at? This was at append. So currently this is a float. So what we can do is convert this into an integer. And honestly, we can technically just... that's right. I was going to do it a different way. Where the integer is going to be defined on middle one. So middle one equals middle one integer. Like you could put the int around this, right? Technically. Right? And then around this. Yeah. So it does work, but not very well. Because if you look, beginning is equal, so print beginning. So slices 0 through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 is shirt, pants. And then books is somehow, this is interesting. Books is somehow got stuck in the middle. Let's run this. So somehow it's finding 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this somehow we're getting index 5. Let's take a look. So L suitcase minus 1. L suitcase is the length of suitcases. Ah, this is where we screwed up. This should be middle 1. Because this will give us half, and this will give us half minus 1. So let's rerun that, and then we get pants, which is the middle of the... It is the middle of everything from suitcase. So, okay, so now we created a function that will always calculate the middle of something if the number is even. And what's great is we should figure out how to make it print out the middle number if the number is odd. I feel like if the number is odd, okay, there's different ways to do this. Let's just move on. All right. Let's go back, dude. Okay. So again, you can see how functions are useful. Let's talk about slicing lists. If we want to select the first 3 elements of a list, we can use the following code. Print fruits, index 0 through 3, so this is a slice. So what is this? When we start at the beginning of the list, it's also valid to omit the 0, and you can just start with :3. That to me would be so freaking confusing. We can do something similar when we only want selecting the last few items of the list. 2 : oh boy, so that's gonna be hard to remember. So :3 will get the first 3 items of the list up to the first 3 items, and then 2 : will get the last 2 items. So this is gonna be hard to remember. So let's practice this. Create a new list called start that contains the first 3 elements of the suitcase. Okay, so we know that it's going to take suitcase, and the first 3 elements is going to be :3. Let's run this. And let's see this. So we're going to print out start, which is the variable we just created, and it prints out the first 3 things. Create a new list called end that gets the final 2 elements. And it's the same thing. We're gonna store suitcase, and we're gonna do 2 : this time instead of : and then we'll print end. And you'll see that we'll get the last items. Nope, that was wrong. Why did I screw up? So 2 : right? Let's see. 2 : is correct. End is equal to suitcase 2 : this should be the last 2 items. Your value for n did not match pajamas and books. Yeah, no, I'm perfectly aware of that. So, according to this, we can omit the final index when selecting the final element from a list. They're liars. Look at this. They said, look, print. I guess you can print. So end would equal 2 colon bracket, right? That looks right. That looks right, right? So let's try something here. Let's print that statement. Ah, so it does print out. So according to this, 0 to 3 and colon 3 gives you the first 3, which it does. And 2 colon. If we want to select at least the last 3 elements of the list, we can also use this syntax. Huh. So the final 2 elements actually would have been -2, I guess. I guess that's what they're looking for. So the 2 colon starts at 2, the index 2, 0, 1, 2, and prints out the rest of the list. I get what we did wrong. Or I did wrong, because again, I don't have Kevin, so I do everything wrong without him. Always code with people, man. It's when you have 2 people and you're coding together, it makes life easier. Cool. So it prints out pajamas. Does it have to get the last 3 indexes? End is equal to, oh boy. Nope. It is -2 colon. Yep. -2 colon means start at the very end and count back to 2 and then count to the end again. And that'll be our index. So this is confusing. So this is great. I hope we practice more of that. So we have a list called letters that represents letters in the word Mississippi. We want to know how many times I appears. We can use a function count. Miss Wilson's, is that Wilson? Ooh. WLL. Miss Wilson's class voting for president. She saves each student's vote on the list. Use the count to determine how many students voted for Jake. So we would create a variable called Jake votes. And let's set it equal to count. How do we do this? Count? Oh, so it's going to equal to votes dot count, and then in our expression we'll put Jake, right? And then let's print out how many votes he got. Print Jake votes, and let's see what we get. 9 votes for Jake. Oh, that's cool. So we can take a list of a lot of things and we can count, and then in the parameter for count, we put specifically what it is that we want to count. So that's fair enough. Okay, so sometimes we want to sort a list either numerical or alphabetical. We can sort a list in place using the sort method. And suppose we have a list of names. This would print the names. Now we apply sort, and we get, oh, that's cool. So it can alphabetize names. Sort goes after our list. Cool. So use sort on sort addresses. So if address is here, so we could print, oh, it tells us to sort the address down here. So print, can we just print addresses? Dot sort. See what that runs, see what that prints. Prints none. Ooh. Ooh. This is one of those ones where you gotta put like the list around it. Let's see. No, that's wrong. So let's get rid of this. And let's just say addresses sort and again 0. So should we save this in a variable? This prints none. Although sorted names is none, the line sorted names equals name sort still edited names, print names. So, do we print address? Oh, we print address maybe? To see it? Oh, it did, look. It did it did alphabetize this. That's cool. Remove the hashtag in front of the sort names. Okay, let's run it. Cancel. Let's hit run. Indentation error. It says edit this line so that it runs without producing a name error. So sort names dot sort print names. That's not hard at all. So this is the print names. And finally, use the print to examine the sorted cities. Why is this not the sorted version of cities? Sorted cities equal to cities dot sort. So print. What are they talking about? What? Sorted cities is not defined. It's right there. I misspelled it. Alright. Unlucky. Run it. So, sorted cities printed with nothing. And type none. It says, why is this not the sorted version of cities? Because what it did was it saved into the variable the result of the method, but not the cities itself. So cities.sort took the list cities and sorted it in the code already, and then when we tried to assign it to this, it won't do that. It doesn't allow you to do that. So a second way of sorting lists is to use sorted. Sorted is different from .sort in several ways. It comes before a list instead of after. It generates a new list. So in this case, we could generate a new list that can be stored into sorted cities using this next piece here. So sorted names is equal to sorted names, print sorted names. Yeah, simple enough. So we have two methods. So if we want to create a new list that includes the sorted names from that list, we have to use the sort before we save it into a variable. If we want to take games and just sort games, we would just say games.sort, and it would automatically sort games, the variable games. It would say, okay, redefine games and then sort these by alphabet inside of it. And what they're saying is, if you created a new list called games sorted, and it's equal to the sort games, right? Print oh, it's gotta be sorted. Jeez Louise. Print games sorted. Run it. It creates a new list with the sorted names. But if we print games, right? Let's print games. This is games. This is games sorted. Now, let's go to games.sort, right? And then let's print games. Ha! So you see, if we games.sort, it automatically alphabetizes it for us. And then when we reprint it, so what happens is when we call this method here, it's essentially doing this piece right here and storing it. So when we do this piece, okay, so let's make this less confusing. When we do the piece that I have highlighted here, it's essentially doing this. Right? We can't do that, but essentially it looks like this. Right? This function or method is doing this piece. So that's all that's going on here. Not confusing at all. All right, let's review. Inventory is a list with items. How many items? How many items are in the warehouse? Save it to inventory. So, okay, inventory underscore length would be equal to the length of the inventory. Select the first element in inventory, save it to the variable first is equal to inventory and first. That's the first item. Select the last item from the inventory. We said the last item is always -1. And run it. Select items from the inventory starting at index 2. So we're going to create the variable first inventory 2 underscore 6 is equal to the range from 2 to 6. Ooh, what does this say? Did not match expected value. Okay, so let's print inventory 2, 6. And let's run it. And I can't spell, dude. Inventory. Run it. Yeah, range 2, 6. So what's funny here is we have to put list, right? We have to put list, right? And then we have to run this. Yeah. And then if you print this, it's 2, 3, 4, 5. It says the value for did not match. So this is the proper way to do it. I don't want them select starting at index 2 and going up to 6. It's a range between 2 and 6, which is right here. Right? Starting at 2, going up to 6, but not including 6. What did I do wrong? Let's rerun it. Nope, it's wrong. I'm supposed they wanted to go like 2:6, right? That's wrong. Yeah, that should be wrong. So I really feel like it should be range 2:6. Or it might be 2:6. No, it's 2:6. It really, right? It's a list. Let's try it. Run it. No. Select the items from the inventory. Oh. Well. Of course. I'm silly. Because I didn't use inventory. So we have to find the range of the inventory. So inventory 246 is equal to the range, list range 26 of the inventory. I don't know if that'll work or not. That may be an error. List object is not callable. Yeah, no kidding. It may be this. And that looks correct. No. List object is not callable. Where's the list object at? Inventory, which is a list, range 2 to 6. The list item is not callable. No. Run this. Oh man. Okay, let's blank this out because I completely flubbed this. So select items from the inventory. Okay. So inventory starting index 2 and going up to index 6. Okay? List indices must be integers or slices, not tuples. So 2:6? No, 2: would be the last, right? We can't cheat this way, can we? We can. Oh, okay. So 2 through 6. So it's okay. So it's just like a standard position. So it starts at 2, we go to 6. It's kind of like Excel. It feels a little bit like Geek Week. Excel spreadsheets. Cool. Glad we figured that out. Maybe I'll read directions this time. Select the first 3 items of inventory and save it to variable first 3. So, okay. So we said to get the first 3 would be :3. Right? Yes. How many twin beds are in the inventory? Save your answer to twin beds. This is equal to the total inventory that counts, and we want to find twin bed, and it needs to be spelled appropriately, and we need to run it, and that is correct. And we should really, what we can do is we should print out these pieces, right? Print first, so print last, print inventory underscore length, and print inventory underscore 2 underscore 6, and then print first 3, and then we should print twin beds. And let's run this. And okay, sort inventory using dot sort. So inventory dot sort method, and then let's print inventory. Cool. So we should get a huge list, which we do, and we look and we see that that has been alphabetized. Oh boy. So we're probably gonna take a quiz right here, but a huge takeaway is that to get, obviously I got this one dead wrong. To get the, and we practiced it. To get the ranges, you start and then colon wherever you're gonna end. Okay, so let's take a. It says we're gonna do a project. Awesome. Let's do the projects. Let's go. 0 of 13. Let's start it. I don't care. I don't give no shoot. Keep track of pizzas that you sell. Create a list called toppings. Oh man, and it holds the following information. Okay, this is where like having an IDE would be so much better. Pepperoni, pineapple, cheese, sausage, and olives. And again, you can follow along on your Visual Studio Code IDE or whichever editor you prefer. Anchovies, mushrooms. Okay, whew. Big list. So we got this down, right? And I'm gonna write print toppings. That's my test. I'm gonna save it, and it prints out just fine, no issues. To keep track of how much of each kind of pizza slice costs, create a list called prices that holds. Okay, so let's create prices is equal to an empty list, and let's add 2, 6, 1, 3, 2, 7, 2. Okay. So what we should do is we should combine these, right? And again, that's sort of like we created a function for this already, right? But let's just keep going. Find the length of the toppings and store into a variable called number of pizzas. So num pizzas is equal to the length of toppings. Print a string we sell string number of pizzas plus kinds of pizzas, and let's print this out. We sell 7 kind of pizzas. So again, this string method you should know from our previous lessons. It converts this number into a string, so we can use it in a print statement. Use zip. Again, this should be a function, but hey, who am I? Use zip to combine the two lists into a list called pizzas. So pizzas is equal to zip of toppings and prices. Right? Oh, it says price. Prices first. Prices, toppings, and then oh, this IDE is terrible. Let's print. I love you, Code Academy. I'm just kidding. Your IDE is amazing. We're gonna print pizzas. Let's see what happens. Let's save it. Ah ha 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 ha. Remember, we have to, in order to make the results, let's do the following. Yeah, we have to list it. And we're gonna print pizzas and 2 pepperoni, 6. Okay, we're good. Print pizzas, we already did that. Sort pizzas. Sort pizzas so that the pizzas with the lowest prices are at the start of the list. So pizzas dot sort. So let's verify. So let's verify that this got sorted correctly. So it says, according to this, pizzas.sort, the lowest should be, the lowest prices should be at the start of the list. Well, 1 is the lowest price. So I forgot to put the parentheses there. And it did. Okay. So cheese 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. So store the first element of pizzas into a variable called cheapest. Pizza is equal to the first element of pizzas, right? Which is always going to be index 0. And then let's print out that variable. In this case, it should give out cheese at 1. 1 cheese, which is what it does. So we are going to comment out that print statement because we know that it is in fact a just a unit test. All right. So a man in a business suit walks in and shouts, "I will have your most expensive pizza." Get the last. So the priciest pizza is always going to be equal to whatever pizzas is minus 1. Minus 1 always gives us the last item of any list. Doesn't care how long the list is. I spelled priciest wrong? You dang right I spelled priciest wrong. Maybe I should take a spelling test. Alright, priciest pizza. Alright, so we should get the last, which is anchovies. Hey, we did get anchovies. Cool, so that unit test passed. 3 mice walk into the store. They don't have much money, but they do want different pizzas. Slice pizzas with the 3 lowest cost pizzas into a list called 3 cheapest. So requirement is to create the 3 cheapest, and that is going to be equal to whatever our pizzas list is and it will always start at 0 or colon and go up to 3. And then let's print out the unit test. Print. And save it. And look at that. There's our 3 cheapest pizzas. Alphabetized. So let's comment this out. And print 3 cheapest list. We already did. Your boss wants you to do some research on $2 slices. Count the number of occurrences of 2 in the list and store it into a variable called num2 slices is equal to, we know so that I can't spell, so let's go back here and number $2 slices, right? What am I doing? Count the number of recurrences. Okay, so we have a list called pizzas, and we can count that, and we can look for 2, right? For $2, and save it. And we can run it. We can print num2 slices and save it, and it says 0, which is false. It is false. I think what it should count is the string 2. I don't know. Maybe not. It doesn't. Interesting. Count the number of occurrences of 2 in the prices list. So first of all, I wasn't reading requirements. I wasn't even looking at the right thing. Gotta pay attention to requirements. So 3 things. Ba-bam. Nope, already did this. And save. And I think that's all she wrote. Yep. Okay. Final quiz for the night and the lesson. Which of the following lines of code would select the letter D from my list? So my list 0, 1, 2, 3. My list 3. Boom. I think that's the third index. We just count from 0 to 3 to get it. Which of the following code selects the last 3 elements? So the last 3 elements are always going to be 3. So this would start from 3 and go to the end. This would be the last 3 elements. I don't know why you'd use the colon. I don't know. I wouldn't use a colon. Which of the following would be generated by the code snippet? My list, boom. So print my list 2 through 5. So start at index 0, 1, 2, and end at 3, 4, 5. So C through F. C, D, E, F looks good. What is wrong? C, D, E, it doesn't, excludes F. I forgot. C, D, E because F is 5. So that's a fail on my part. Which of the following lines of code would select from the list B, C from my list? B and C are index 1 and 2. My list 1 and 3 would be correct. That was easy enough. Which of the following lines of code will tell us how many times win appears in the list game schedule? So game schedule.count win. This is a super easy one. It will always follow that format. Can't go wrong with that. Which of the following commands will return the length of the list my list? So len my list looks pretty darn good. Which of the following lines of code will correctly sort my list? So my list dot sort, I think, is with the parentheses. Which of the following lines of code would select the letter E from my list? Letter E would just be the last one, so you would take my list and -1 and 87. Yeah. Leave us more problems. What is this? So let's see what this is. Okay, so this will be a project we'll do. Me and Kevin will probably do tomorrow on Thursday. Um, and it looks like these are going to be 11 functions with lists. So that'll be fun. We'll stream that as well and record it as well for you guys. That's it for me in Cycle 35. You guys have a good night.